Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review. Thank you, Bryan Singer, because I just saw X-Men Days of Future Past, and I loved it. This movie was my most anticipated movie of the year. I put it at number one on my most anticipated of the year list, my video, and it did not disappoint. This was an epic, fun, serious, I can't exactly say right now since it's a little soon, but it's probably my favorite X-Men movie. And I really like X-Men 2 and First Class. I think those are great movies. So this is actually, for me, a big deal. This actually tops those ones. X2 was always my favorite X-Men movie. And this one just might top it. Because X-Men 2, the problem with that is that it does take itself a little too seriously. And this one has a great tone since it has a very dark and serious storyline, but has fun moments throughout. So a basic gist of the plot, without getting into all the complicatedness, is that the movie starts off in a post-apocalyptic future. The Sentinels have been wiping out mutants, and the Sentinels have the power to adapt to a mutant's ability, pretty much. And they've been taking out mutants, so their plan, the X-Men's plan, is to send Wolverine back in time to stop this from happening. And so to stop this whole apocalyptic future, and that's what happens. So Wolverine gets sent back in time. He has to get together Professor X and Magneto, the younger versions from X-Men First Class, to stop this threat and save the world, basically. And that's just a gist, because this movie is pretty complicated. And just, the acting, all the performances are great. One of the things I loved about this movie is it wasn't a Wolverine movie. Because another little flaw with X-Men 2, even though I love the movie, is that it focuses a little too much on Wolverine. That's kind of a problem with a lot of the X-Men movies. They focus a bit too much on Wolverine. And this one, even though you feel like it's gonna, since he's the one going back in time, he has to recruit everybody, it doesn't feel like that. This movie feels like a big ensemble movie. There's no real main character, in my opinion. There's no real, guy who takes center stage the whole movie, and I love that because I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but I don't want to focus on him all the time. I wanted to see all these other characters, and that was great. James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender from First Class, they stole First Class, and they just about steal this movie too. They're amazing. This movie at its core is a First Class sequel. So if you haven't seen X-Men First Class, I recommend seeing that before this because there's a lot of ties to it. And I love that. I love First Class. I've been waiting for a sequel. The movie came out in 2011, so I've been waiting 3 years. And this is basically it, and I loved it. Every time they were on screen, it was great. The rest of the cast is awesome. The original cast doesn't get too much to do. They're mostly small roles. Well, Professor X, he probably has the most to do. But roles like Halle Berry as Storm and that, those are really small and just kind of supporting. So I know a lot of people hate Halle Berry as Storm. Don't think of it. It doesn't really matter in this movie since she has a very small part, so it doesn't really matter. And this movie, one of the worries I had with this movie, and I think a lot of people did too, is that they're like, this is going to be so convoluted, there's time travel, there's all these characters that are being thrown in, and the movie's not. There's some complicated plot points, yeah, for sure, but it was an easy to follow movie. It never got too jumbled, it was never a mess, it was the plot flowed perfectly. And that's what I loved about it, and I loved the storyline, it worked. There are mutants in the movie that mostly just were just cameos, and I was kind of I would like to see more of that. And they're mostly just little cameos, but what you're gonna do. The focus of these movies of these storylines have always been Professor X and Magneto, and this is the focal point of this movie too, and it works beautifully. The action scenes are awesome. They're very well directed, they're entertaining, they're not the focal point of the movie, which I like. This movie, it is big. I mean, the end of the movie has Magneto taking a whole stadium and dropping it around the White House. But there's no, insanely big action. There's not like Captain America where there's 3 giant ships firing at each other while our main hero has to fight the villain inside one of them. There's no huge action scenes, and I like that. I like it when the movies are a little bit smaller and they're not insane with their action. This movie, which some people might have problems with, I know one of the people who saw the movie with me had a problem with it, is that it connects a lot to other movies. So if you're not that familiar with the previous films, you might have a problem following a few of the plot points, a few of the bits here and there. Me, I follow the movies a lot, so I understood it perfectly. But yeah, that can be a problem to some people. I'd find it a problem to me. The more I think of this movie, the more I can't really find that many flaws with it, and that's what really surprises me. Is that even movies like Captain America, which I loved, I had a few issues with. Nothing major, but I had a few issues. This, I can't really think of anything. Maybe like some of the mutants, like I said, they didn't get as much screen time. It would have been cool to see more of them. I mean, there's a kind of some goofy stuff, but I can't find that many flaws. One of the things that I know everybody was expecting to be a flaw, and was totally surprised by, was Quicksilver. All the pictures of Quicksilver looked awful, and his scene in the movie, his big scene with him breaking out Magneto, was one of the best scenes in this movie. It was so entertaining, and that's one of the aspects of the movie that I thought was well done by bringing the fun into it. It's a really dark, serious story about mutants being eradicated in the future, and like they have to stop it. And then there's fun moments, and it doesn't feel awkward. It's not like Amazing Spider-Man 2 where there's moments like that. It doesn't feel like that. The comedy kind of complements the serious stuff. And that Quicksilver scene is a perfect example. So much fun, so cool, and the effects were amazing. I love that scene. I really love this movie. There is a post-credit scene that is mainly for die-hard comic book fans. I knew what it was. I understood what it was. It teases the next movie, X-Men Apocalypse, that comes out in a couple years. And it was cool. I know a lot of people were calling it like one of the best post-credit scenes they've ever seen. Not really for me. I mean, it wasn't bad, but not really for me. I watched them like, okay, that's cool. Now, the ending of this movie, without giving away spoilers, ending of this movie, I love it because it's a big screw you to X-Men The Last Stand. And you can't, that's awesome. That's awesome. The only problem by doing that, it kind of says screw you to the Wolverine. And I really liked the Wolverine. That came out last year, and I thought it was a fantastic film. So I was kind of like, oh. But the fact that I was kind of saying that, like, yeah, X-Men 3, get out of here. I was like, yeah, good job, Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer, I'm so happy he's back. This is an X-Men 2 style Bryan Singer, not a Superman Returns style Bryan Singer, or a Jack the Giant Slayer Bryan Singer. This is him back in full force, giving it his all, and just blowing me away with that. So I'm so happy Bryan Singer's back, and as of now, he's still directing X-Men Apocalypse. I don't know if there's any other problems are going to come up with that due to some legal things he's having problems with right now. Don't need to get into that. But I really hope he is coming back for sure for Apocalypse, just because I think he's a great director. He knows, I mean, he changes a lot of things, but he knows what he's doing. He's a really great filmmaker. I think it was kind of cool how some of the movie does acknowledge X-Men 3, even though I don't like it. Like, it was interesting because, like, I know there are fans of the movie, so it is kind of, if they totally ignored it, it would be kind of a screw you to people who did like it. And I like how Bryan Singer was accepting of it. It was like, yeah, this is part of the universe, so we'll branch off of it a bit. We'll do some of that stuff. So I kind of appreciated that, even though I didn't like that movie, but I appreciated that. Just overall, this movie worked. It's epic story, great acting. The cast is phenomenal, and a really good story that keeps you invested in the whole time and wanting to see how it turns out, and even some cool surprises at the end of the movie that I liked. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, they did that. Out of 10, I have to go for it. I think I'm going to go for it. I think I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Perfect score. This could just be the hype for me just seeing it recently, but, oh man, I love this movie. This was a movie that going in I wanted to give a 10 out of 10, but it's not like I was obligated, like I was going to do it no matter what. So I really am surprised I gave this such a high score. Just because I just have to, I can't, maybe my opinion will change as time goes on, as the movie sinks in more. But I can't think of any major flaws that really annoyed me, or even flaws that are just like, that was weird. I can't really think of that. I had such a fun time in this movie. The story was great, everything about it was awesome. No extreme focus on Wolverine. It was mostly a first-class sequel, which I love, and just, I think it might be my favorite X-Men movie. So that's X-Men Days of Future Past. Definitely check it out if you're a fan of the X-Men movies. This, like, if you didn't like any of the last ones, this totally brings it back. Even though I thought X-Men First Class and the Wolverine did a pretty good job of resurrecting the series, this takes it to new levels. I just thought it was a great film. So awesome. So, me and Sam will be back to do a big spoiler talk where we delve into all the plot points, all the character cameos, and all the crazy stuff that happened in this movie. But until then, I will talk to you guys later.